Hey, it's the Rayrican, and today we're going to talk about CRAP, Critical Race Applied Pedagogy. And yes, I'm. That's what we're going to talk about today because the media keeps gaslighting us into believing that it's just something that we don't. It's not something that's true. It's something that we're we're not really don't know what critical race theory means, and they're not teaching critical race theory in school. That's what they'll tell us. So you have to keep an eye out for what they're trying to do. So I'm gonna come across this here. I just want to show you, where they talk out of both sides of their mouth when it comes to this crap. And I'll thank Tim Pool for the inspiration. Might have changed it around. What they said practice. I'm using pedagogy because this was an article I found here in real time. This is from a college because that's what .edu in real time from theory to practice in a critical race pedagogy classroom. So the reason why that's why I used it because if they were to put applied practice or applied pedagogy, what would it spell? Crap. So they reduce it to CRP and CRT, and I'm going to reduce it to what it really is: CRAP. Crap. Okay. So even in their own article here, I mean, in this, yeah, you could say it's an article. No, it's not an article. It's just a paper. You're going to see what they talk about here. They talk about I entered this teacher action research project with an interest in studying how I, as a high school teacher, as a high school teacher, developed a critical race pedagogy curriculum for students in an out of school context. My intrigue with race started in early age growing up in Oakland, California, where my classmates were primarily of African American, Central American, Southeast Asian descent. As a Southeast Asian student in Oakland schools, even with 100% students of color in my classes, my teachers in school rarely talked about race or racism. And this is the whole thing. Why do we need to stress the race? And here I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep talking about what they're talking about. I entered my doctoral program haunted by the limitations I encountered as an educator for social justice. You always got to look for these keywords. Signing on as a graduate student instructor teaching historically marginalized youth in a teacher pipeline program. I envisioned this as a redemptive opportunity for me to develop a curriculum that boasted racial consciousness in students. Okay, here's my question to you. We live in a multi ethnic society. Why do we want to elevate racial consciousness? We shouldn't want to, because this is at the end of the day, you're going to have black students and white students. Do you really want to stress racial consciousness? Because what's going to happen is white and black. You're gonna have, of course, you're gonna have a group of white people that are gonna feel white guilt and all that. Then you're gonna have a bunch of white kids who are gonna be like, nah, screw this shit. We didn't do nothing wrong. And their parents are gonna say, hey, we didn't do nothing wrong. What you're gonna do is this is creating more racism, more division, more conflict because what it's instead of, let's say, yes, you could teach American history and teach about slavery, about um, what was done to the indigenous people of this country, or of this continent. Because guess what? It's happened in Canada, it happened in Mexico. It's not. It's what happens across the world. It's not unique to the United States. But that's when they teach this stuff, that's the problem. They want to teach it as a unique evil of the United States, or they want to teach it as a unique evil of the West. That's what they do. So I'm going to keep going. Look, here it goes. My motivation for creating a course on racial consciousness for students interested in teaching profession center on three core principles. We live in a highly racialized society, starting from the landing of the first settle, settler colonists on North American soil to the way in which race continues to shape outcomes and opportunities across multiple strata in our society. As an educator, I feel a sense of responsibility to prepare my students to engage in democracy for the liberation of oppressed groups. Look, listen, that is the key word right there. When they're talking about oppressed groups, you're no longer talking about teaching kids, you're talking about teaching kids critical race theory or critical theory, which is all Marxist philosophy. To do so, students must be equipped with the language, tools, and knowledge to think and act as an informed manner about social issues. Yes, remember that language, tools, and knowledge, because it's at the same thing that they're using. We need to use on our end to fight them because we got to see the language that they use, and you got to because they'll change words, but you gotta keep up with their verbiage so you could be able to um, counteract it. Furthermore, for students of color interested in becoming future teachers in under-resourced schools, I feel the utmost responsibility to nurture their racial consciousness so they can develop the dispositions of critical educators seeking to disrupt the status quo and become change agents in their communities. So you're not teaching them to be teachers, you're teaching them to be activists. You want to teach teachers to be activists, to teach their students to be activists. That's what's going on in these that's what's going on in schools right now. These people who believe in CRT, they're just all they're spouting is they don't sometimes half the time they don't realize because they're just talking about critical race theory. They don't realize that it's spouted from critical theory, which is a Marxist philosophy in a way to destroy this country. And that's what's going on here. Further, it goes here, like I said, so they can develop dispositions of critical educators seeking to disrupt the status quo and become change agents in their community. The purpose of this teacher action research study is to examine how I planned, prepared, and executed a CRP curriculum for historically marginalized youth in the teacher pipeline program. So basically, what are they doing here? They're teaching critical race theory and applying it so they could figure out how to teach it to the kids. And this is a high school teacher. She said in the beginning, she's a high school teacher. So this is someone, they're not trying to teach kids, they're trying to indoctrinate kids. And so people can understand where I'm coming from. For example, I took my first philosophy class my freshman year at college. Honestly, I think you should take an intro to philosophy in high school. I don't think you should have to take it in college. I think you should have to take it in college if you want. But I really think it should be something that's taught in school, in high school, just because the fact that if you want an open mind, philosophy will give you an education, opening your mind to new ideas, not being indoctrinated as these kids are, as this teacher is talking about here. A segment of education research is focused on how to prepare educators to work in diverse school settings to close the opportunity gap offered, often shaped by race. Here goes. Scholars theorize that when teachers negate race or racism in their curriculum, it represents a symbolic violence to students of colors and endangers the well being of all students. Look at this. Look, if you teach about, you could teach about, like I said, you could teach about slavery, you could teach about what happened, like especially in the 1800s, to the indigenous people in this country. You could teach about the Civil War. You could teach about Jim Crow. You could teach about all that stuff that is the negative stuff. You could teach the Tulsa race riots. You could teach about all that stuff. There's nothing that's stopping people. There's nothing that's stopping people from teaching this history. Okay, there's nothing wrong with teaching the warts of our country so we can appreciate. If we see where we came from, we're more likely to appreciate where we are now. But the problem is they want to lump it all together. They don't want to teach the history. They want to say, look at what our country, how our country was founded, and look where we are today. There's no difference. That's why they want to teach it. So it's not, you don't have to teach, they want to teach racism. It's not you want to negate race or racism. No, you critical race people want to teach racism. And look at here, silence can serve as a weapon for white students and faculty members to disengage from critical conversations about race. The root reason for the silence must be interrogated rather than assumed. Here goes. Leonard and Porter warn against educators procuring a safe space, given that schools as institutions has historically served as hostile and harmful environments for students of color. Rather, scholars emphasize reflexivity of educators who seek to facilitate these critical conversations regarding race and racism, a constant awareness and critique regarding one's own practice. I mean, look, as speaking as a person of color, this here is some bullshit. Okay. Uh, this is what they do. Look, they use what's going on is, like I said, critical race theory, offshoot of critical theory. Critical theory was the Western portion of Marxist philosophy. It's the Chicago School. I know I've spoken about it a while ago. But look, this is, you want to teach race consciousness. Um, it goes here. Scholars emphasize reflexivity for educators who seek to facilitate these critical conversations, kind of race and racism, and constant awareness and creating one's own practice. Okay, I already read that in the smallest text there. But this is, you read these studies, and you see. Look, I employed critical race pedagogy as a theoretical framework for this research project. Critical racist critical racism applied um, pedagogy encompasses the liberatory teaching practices of critical pedagogy with the tenets of critical race theory. Considered the forefather of critical pedagogy, Paulo Freire, a Brazilian adult literacy worker and educator, delineated a pedagogy that sought to liberate oppressed populations. Look, if you feel like you're oppressed in this country, I don't know what to tell you. You know, we we make our own choices. Look, I made stupid choices when I was young. So there's certain jobs I can't apply for just because I made bad choices. Is that, am I oppressed because I made these bad choices? No, I made the bad choices. Okay? We have to take responsibility for our own actions. But this whole thing of, like I said, teaching racial consciousness is just going to create, all you're doing is creating racism, you're creating division, you're creating conflict, because not every white person that you teach this to is going to be willing to you're not going to be willing to be susceptible to that white guilt. Some of them are going to be like, you know what, that's what, that happened in the past, that's not me or my family. But that's, when you see this stuff and you go, look, listen, this is critical theory. Forget about critical race theory. This is just critical theory gone amok. Instead of dividing us by class, is dividing us by race. Because at the end of the day, You can't, it's hard to divide by class in this country because when you have people of color and poor people of every color rise up there above their class that they were born into, you can't divide by class in this country. Especially the bigger your middle class, the harder it is for Marxism to take hold. Because as long as you have a big burgeoning middle class, these are people who were poor and picked themselves up to the middle class. Now, what we have to figure out in this country going forward is how we're going to pick up that middle class again. When manufacturing left overseas, it took a lot of these middle class jobs away. So, I mean, this is a long article. Okay. I could go through here and criticize the whole thing. Okay. I'm going to show you, I'm just going to, I'll link this article. So for whoever wants to read, excuse me, whoever wants to read this. But this is, I mean, this is just unbelievable when you read what's going on here. And like I said, and I'm now that I've talked about this article I found, why was I talking about this? Because you got nonsense like this. You have the teachers union president claims banning critical race theory means not teaching history of slavery. That's bullshit. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. This is what they tell you, and then they'll tell you, oh, in one breath they'll say we're not teaching critical race theory in classrooms. And then it's like, because we're not teaching their philosophers, but they, like I said, it's applied pedagogy or applied practice, whichever makes it easier for you to say. But at the end of the day, it is critical. It's crap. It is crap. It's a load of crap that they're teaching our children. All right. But like I said, one breath she'll say, it's stroking parents' fear and anger. The reason why parents are angry is because the fact that they see what's going on. They don't want their kids learning this. I don't. This is not something that you teach in high school. It's not teaching. It's indoctrination. Like I said, when you're teaching kids that they're oppressed, that right there, once they're talking about whiteness and teaching oppressed, that you're oppressed, or teaching that there's oppressed people and not and the people who do the oppressing. These are the things that these are the languages that you have to be aware of when you're when you ask your kids what are they learning in school. So like that, when you go to the teacher, you're like, why are you teaching my kids crap? What are you talking about? Critical race applied pedagogy or practice. You're putting this stuff into practice in the schools. You may not be teaching the theories, but you're teaching its tenets in the school. And of course, our uh, you know, our grandpa in chief, Biden, supports his Biden administration signals support for critical race theory in schools K to 12. Oh, why? Why? It's like, look at this. Look what I just showed you in just this little. Oh, no, no, no. Don't tell me it closed out. Okay. Whew. No, I closed out a different one. So here, even just this, that we've went through 5 pages of we went through 5 pages of, let's see how many, that's the index. Let me just see here. 16 pages. Okay. 16 pages. We just went through 5 pages. That's it. 5 pages of 16 where you're just gonna look. I mean, here she's just talking about the same stuff. I do not believe teachers need an advanced degree in CRT to become fluent in racial literacy. However, anchoring one's teaching within a framework could guide how educators approach anti-racist work. Oh man. And then they tell you, and then Ibram and Kendi will say, oh, I'm an anti-racist, I'm not a critical racist. I'm not a critical race theorist. I'm an anti-racist. Well, that's another key word for critical race theory. It's saying that you're anti-racist. So please, please share this video. I don't always talk about sharing this video, but look, I'm gonna share this video. Share this video. Share, share this article, and let people know they're teaching crap to our kids. They're really just teaching crap to our kids, and it's crap, crap. See, just so you could see, critical race applied pedagogy practice, however you want to call it. They're applying the critical race theory and teaching that crap to our kids. And if you okay with it, then you know what, I don't know what to I don't know what to tell you. If you're look, if you're a person of color, you're a Latino like me, whether you're black, this is not good to be teaching to our children. All it is going to radicalize them, and what it's going to do is turn this country from uh, um, mixed economy, because I'm not going to say we're a capitalist economy, because we're a mixed economy. When there, you don't want laissez-faire and you don't want communism, okay? But at the same time, you don't want communism. You don't, and this teaching this stuff, critical theory, critical race theory, all this stuff is all Marxist philosophy that's been taught for I'm going to say generations, because we're talking about, this is stuff that's critical race theory has been theory that's been critical theory, excuse me, has been going on since the 50s. Critical race theory has been going on since the 70s, and it's just an offshoot of something that's been going on for over 60 years, being taught in colleges. That's what's going on. And if you're not angry with this, I don't I don't know what's going to make you angry. I don't know what's going to get you angry. What's going to get you fired up to uh for our children to stop learning this. All right. I'm going to leave it there. I'm the Right Rican. You can follow me on you can watch my videos on YouTube and Rumble. You could also, I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Parlor. I even signed up for the Getter account. I got to update that onto my link tree. But yeah, so I just signed up for it. I haven't really checked it out too much, but just remember, this is what they're teaching our kids. It's crap. All right. Well, have a good weekend.